Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of Dimitra's Dishes. Today I'm going to teach you how to make my chocolate covered melomakarona. Melomakarona are basically honey soaked cookies that have all of the flavors of baklava. They're sweet, they're sticky, and they're so delicious, and they're going to be even more special because we're going to make them heart shaped because Valentine's Day is right around the corner. Of course, you can make them any shape that you like. We're going to dip them in chocolate. I like to use a combination of semi-sweet and dark. I like the depth of flavor that both chocolates together create. We're going to garnish them with a little bit of chopped walnuts, but you can also garnish them with some little candied hearts or pearls or whatever your heart desires. Let's go over the ingredients so we can get started. For the syrup, we're going to need some granulated sugar, water, honey, and pure vanilla extract. For the cookies, we're going to need some all-purpose flour, a little pinch of salt, some ground cloves, ground cinnamon, baking soda, and baking powder. We're also going to need some semi-sweet and dark chocolate for dipping them. I have some ground walnuts for the garnish, olive oil, 2 oranges, we're going to use the zest and the juice, and some granulated sugar. We're going to begin by making the syrup. So in a saucepan, combine the sugar and the water. Bring it to a boil. Once the sugar dissolves, take it off of the heat, add the vanilla extract and the honey, mix it all together and set it aside. The best thing about this cookie recipe is that you do not need to use a tabletop mixer. You can do this all by hand with a whisk, starting off with a whisk and then finishing off by hand and kneading it a little bit. But since I have a stand mixer and it just makes life so much easier, I have it out and I am going to use it. If you don't have one, no problem. We're going to start with the dry ingredients. So I'm going to whisk the dry ingredients up together first. Make sure everything is well incorporated. Now in traditional melomakarona, we do not put any cinnamon or cloves into the cookie mix because we put it with the garnish, with the walnuts. But I do not want to, I want the walnuts to retain their color, and I want the flavor, all those spices to be inside the cookies. So it's up to you how you want to do it. If you want to leave them out, you can go ahead and leave them out, but that little kick of heat is really nice from the cinnamon and the cloves. Now we're going to begin by zesting the oranges. Now, of course, we're going to juice the oranges too, but anytime you need the juice and the zest, you zest first and you juice later. Otherwise, you won't be able to get the zest off an already juiced orange or lemon, or any citrus for that matter. So we're going to zest all the bright orange parts. Anytime you get to the white part, you want to stop because that's bitter. Once the oranges are zested, you can go ahead and whisk that together as well. Now we're going to juice them. We need half a cup of orange juice. So now we're going to combine the wet ingredients into the mixing bowl. I have half a cup of orange juice, a cup of very light olive oil. You can use vegetable oil if you want, and a half a cup of sugar. And I'm going to use the whisk to whisk these all together. And I'm going to turn the mixer on low speed, and I'm going to add a little bit of the dry ingredients, the flour mixture, at a time until they're all incorporated and a dough is formed. While you're making the dough, if it seems like it's a little bit dry, you can go ahead and sprinkle some more orange juice in there, about 2 to 3 tablespoons, or you could do 2 to 3 tablespoons of water just so everything can come together. Then once the dough is done, take it out and transfer it onto a clean work surface. Do not sprinkle any flour on top of the work surface. This is an oily cookie dough, so it is going to roll out very easily. Then go ahead and roll it out to about a little bit less than ½ an inch thickness. My cookie cutter is a ½ inch thick, so that's what I use as a guide. I just want it to be a little bit thinner than the cookie cutter. So now I'm just going to go ahead and cut out heart shapes, and then I'm going to put it on a baking tray that I have lined with parchment paper. My oven is preheated to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, and it's just that easy. Try to cut the cookies out as close as possible so that way you get as much as you can out of your first dough that's rolled out. Once you're done cutting out the cookies from your first batch of dough that you've rolled out, go ahead and gather up all the scraps. Stick them together, press them together, roll it out again to almost a ½ inch in thickness, and keep cutting out cookies until you run out of dough. So I made 36 little heart-shaped cookies, but it depends on the size of your cookie cutter. It also depends on how thick you're going to roll your dough out, how many cookies you're going to end up with. It is okay if you end up with fewer, that's totally fine. What matters is that we bake them beautifully and then we dunk them in that delicious honey syrup and then cover them in chocolate once they're done. So I'm going to bake mine in the oven at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for about 25 minutes or until they're beautifully golden all around. Now halfway through baking time, I am going to go and flip the trays So the tray that's on the bottom rack is going to go in the middle rack, and the middle rack one is going to go on the bottom, just so that way they bake evenly, because my oven right now is not a convection oven, so I want to make sure they bake evenly. Now, unlike other desserts that we make syrup with, usually we let the syrup cool and then the dessert is nice and hot and we pour the cooled syrup over the hot dessert. But in this case, we want both things to be hot. We want the syrup to be hot and the cookies to be hot. So once the syrup boils and everything is put together, we're going to keep it over a very low heat on the stove, so that way it stays nice and hot and ready for the cookies when they come out of the oven. So my cookies took 25 minutes to bake in the oven. As soon as they come out, you want to make sure that you have a cooling rack ready to go, so that way once you dip them in the syrup, you can put them on the cooling rack and all the excess syrup can drip down. Otherwise, you can definitely do this on a baking tray as well. It's just going to make it neater and easier if you do it this way. So as soon as they come out of the oven, put as many as fit into your pot, maybe 5 or 6 into the pot with the syrup in there. Dunk them in there and hold them down for at least 30 to 45 seconds so they can really absorb as much of the syrup as possible, so that they stay nice and juicy and syrupy and sticky and sweet. Then take them out and carefully put them on the cooling rack. Let them cool completely. And now it's time to melt our chocolate, so we could dip them in the chocolate and garnish them with the walnuts. So you want to take the chocolate and you can melt it 2 different ways. You can do it in the microwave in about 10 to 15 second increments. So put it in the microwave 10-15 seconds at a time. Once it begins to melt, go ahead and whisk it so everything is nice and smooth. Or you can do it on top of a double boiler. And then once it's melted, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stir in half a teaspoon of vanilla extract and 1 to 2 tablespoons of olive oil. The olive oil is going to keep the chocolate nice and thin, and it's also going to add another level of like a nice glossy shine to the chocolate. And then we're going to go on and dip everything. Once the chocolate is melted, we're going to go ahead and dip the cookies in one at a time. I'm going to use 2 forks to help me do this. And let all of the excess chocolate drip down to the bottom. And put the chocolate covered cookie on a baking tray that's lined with parchment paper. So I'm going to keep dipping the cookies in the chocolate. I'm going to leave some plain because I want to have both. If you want to melt some white chocolate, you can do that too and just drizzle some on top, just like you would decorate chocolate covered strawberries. That would be pretty too. But while the chocolate is still wet, you want to take some ground up walnuts. I'm using walnuts. You can use almonds if you want, or even pistachios. And then just sprinkle them on the tops of the cookies. Of course, you can leave them plain if you want. Then you want to just leave these aside for at least an hour and let them set so the chocolate could harden. Then go ahead and make a cup of coffee or a pot of tea. Call some friends over and enjoy these. Give these out to your neighbors. They're going to be absolutely delicious. So technically the cookies still need at least 30 more minutes to set. The chocolate is a little bit sticky, but we're going to go in and we're going to taste them anyway. I'm going to go in and take a bite. That is so good. The chocolate is just perfect. It's not too sweet. The cookie is so sticky inside, but yet still kind of crisp. It's really strange. Has the perfect amount of syrup inside of it. The cinnamon and the orange and the cloves just shine through. You guys are gonna love this one. Head on over to the website, www.dimitrasdishes.com. Make it, share pictures with me on Instagram and on Facebook, and let me know what you want to learn how to make next in the comment section down below. Thank you guys so much for spending time with me today. I will see you all next time. Yes,